May the coming year bring you prosperity, good health, and the courage to dream the impossible. Now, what if I told you that somewhere on Earth right now, an area larger than the entire country of Kuwait is literally being erased from existence? Not by bombs, not by floods, but by something far more extraordinary. Imagine waking up one morning to find that a desert the size of New Jersey has simply vanished, replaced by forests, by lakes, by farms growing watermelons where nothing should survive. Sounds like fantasy, right? Like something out of a Marvel movie. But here's the twist. According to NASA, yes, the space agency, something is happening in northern China that shouldn't be scientifically possible. Deserts don't shrink, they spread, always have. It's a law of nature like gravity. Until someone decided to break that law. Let's rewind 60 years. Northern China, the Kubuki Desert. If you looked at it from space, you'd see 7,200 square miles of golden death. That's an area bigger than the entire state of Connecticut, where absolutely nothing could survive. Not crops, not trees, not even hope. The wind here didn't blow occasionally. Old-timers will tell you, the wind blew once a year, for 12 straight months. Families would go to sleep and wake up to find their front doors completely buried. Livestock suffocated under moving dunes. Entire villages had to put their houses on wheels, retreating inch by inch as the desert advanced like a slow-motion tsunami of sand. This wasn't just one desert. The Gobi Desert was consuming 1,400 square miles of grassland every single year. That's roughly 4 square miles disappearing every single day. To put that in perspective, imagine Central Park in New York City being swallowed by sand. Then multiply that by 86, every single year. By the year 2000, nearly 30% of China's entire landmass had turned to desert. Over 400 million people, more than the entire population of the United States, were directly affected. They had a name for these people: climate refugees, forced from their homes not by war but by sand. Cities relocated. Beijing, hundreds of miles away, choked on sandstorms so thick they turned day into night. The Yellow River, China's lifeline, was being strangled by silt washed down from eroding land. Scientists looked at the data and delivered their verdict. This is irreversible. Deserts only expand. That's how nature works. Most countries would have evacuated, drawn a line on the map, written it off as uninhabitable. But in 1978, someone made a decision that would make every environmental scientist in the world think they'd lost their mind. China declared war on the desert itself. They called it the 3 North Shelter Belt Program. The goal? Plant a forest barrier 2,800 miles long, longer than the distance from New York to Los Angeles, to physically wall off the advancing sands. Completion date, 2050. That's a 72-year project, longer than most human lifespans. When the first teams entered the Kubuki Desert in 1988, they faced a demon made of moving sand. Plant a tree today, and tomorrow morning it would either be ripped out by its roots or buried so deep you'd never find it again. Survival rate, sometimes less than 1%. People called it throwing money into a furnace. You're fighting physics, they said. You're fighting gravity. You're fighting nature itself. But here's where ingenuity meets desperation. When high-tech equipment failed in the brutal conditions, temperatures hitting 122 degrees Fahrenheit, engineers invented something that looked almost laughably simple: straw checkerboards. Take wheat stalks, form them into 1-meter squares on the sand dunes, half buried, half standing upright. And something miraculous happened. The straw changed the physics of the wind. When air hit these barriers, it slowed down. Wind that had been racing at 40 miles per hour dropped to almost nothing in the center of each square. When wind slows, sand can't move. The dunes became prisoners. If you connected all the straw grids China has laid across its deserts, they would wrap around Earth's equator more than 50 times. Tens of thousands of workers carrying food and water on their backs, measuring the desert step by step, 1 square at a time, under temperatures that would kill most people. This wasn't technology. This was human will made visible from space. But straw grids were just the opening move. As China's economy grew, so did its arsenal. Desert restoration became less like gardening and more like engineering a moon landing. First innovation, waterjet willow planting. Imagine a high-pressure water cannon that shoots a hole 5 feet deep into solid sand in seconds. A willow sapling gets inserted instantly. The same blast of water that carved the hole delivers exactly the nutrients the roots need to start growing. 10 seconds, 1 tree, 90% survival rate. One person could plant hundreds per day using this method. Second innovation, mechanical sand-fixing beasts. China built machines that move across dunes like giant sewing machines, weaving perfect straw grids automatically. One machine does the work of 500 laborers in a single day. Third innovation, eyes in the sky. Using satellites and drones, China created a real-time monitoring network covering millions of acres. Which dunes are moving? Where is soil moisture dropping? Is that grove of trees still alive? Artificial intelligence tracks every square foot, adjusting plans instantly based on data streaming down from orbit. It's infrastructure engineering applied to ecology. No other nation had ever attempted this scale of technological warfare against a desert. But here's what separates genius from effort. They didn't just fight the desert, they monetized it. Someone asked a brilliant question. What if we could make the desert pay for its own restoration? The answer came in blue, deep solar panel blue. In the Kubuki Desert today, if you look down from a satellite, you'll see what looks like a massive blue ocean flooding across the sand. Millions upon millions of solar panels arranged in precise formations. But these aren't just power stations, they're ecosystem engines. On top, the panels generate electricity. Desert sunlight is relentless, producing massive amounts of clean energy. Underneath, the panels create shade, cutting water evaporation by up to 70%. Suddenly, sand that couldn't hold moisture for an hour can support grass. Between the rows, sheep graze. They eat the grass that grows under the panels, keeping vegetation trimmed so it doesn't block the light. Their waste becomes fertilizer, enriching the soil. It's a perfect closed loop. Sand becomes electricity. Electricity becomes money. Money funds more restoration. And the desert that was worthless becomes worth hundreds of times more per acre than before. By 2030, the Kubuki Solar Project alone is expected to generate 180 billion kilowatt-hours annually, enough to power a city the size of Beijing, all while the land beneath heals itself. Families who once fled in poverty now work as solar panel cleaners, shepherds, and ecological rangers. They grow Chinese licorice, a drought-resistant herb that sells for premium prices in traditional medicine markets and naturally enriches the soil with nitrogen. After 4 years, that same plot can grow grapes, tomatoes, even potatoes. Desert land that couldn't support bacteria now supports communities. So what actually happened? Did it work? Let me hit you with numbers that NASA verified independently. From 2000 to 2017, Earth's total green vegetation increased by 5%, an area equivalent to the entire Amazon rainforest. China alone accounted for 25% of that increase. One country, 1/4 of all new green growth on the entire planet. In the Kubuki Desert specifically, 94.7% of the area showed increased vegetation. The desert's greenness increased by 94% in just 31 years. 1/3 of it, 300 square miles, is now completely transformed. Where satellite images once showed endless yellow, they now show forest parks and farmland. The Muus Desert, 80% under control, on track to become the first desert in human history to be voluntarily removed from the map. China's deserts used to expand by 1,400 square miles per year. Now they're shrinking by 930 square miles annually. That's a reversal of 2,330 square miles per year, roughly the size of Delaware disappearing in reverse. Over 78 billion trees planted since 1982. Forest coverage in northern regions jumped from 5% to 13.5%. Annual rainfall in Quebec quadrupled, from less than 4 inches to over 16 inches, because vegetation changes local climate patterns. Compare this to Africa's Great Green Wall Initiative, launched in 2007 with similar goals. By 2020, it had covered only 4% of its target area. China's project, decades ahead and still accelerating. Every year, this green barrier stops hundreds of millions of tons of sand from pouring into the Yellow River. Beijing's sandstorm days dropped from dozens per year to nearly zero. The project has sequestered 15.4 million metric tons of carbon and lifted over 100,000 people out of poverty. This is more than just planting trees. This is humanity proving that we don't have to accept nature's verdict as final, that with enough determination, innovation, and sheer stubbornness, even physics can be negotiated with. Deserts were supposed to be permanent, irreversible, a one-way ticket to barren wasteland. But somewhere in northern China, families who once fled sandstorms now run guest houses for tourists who come to see forests where grandparents remembered only sand. The Yellow River runs clearer. Children play in parks that exist on land their ancestors said would never support life. The question isn't just did they succeed, the question is, what else is impossible? When you look at those NASA satellite images showing green spreading across what should be dead land, you're not just seeing environmental restoration. You're seeing proof that the word impossible might be the most temporary word in any language. So here's my question for you. What other planetary wounds could we heal if we stopped accepting nature's limits as final answers? What would you attempt if you believed the impossible was just expensive and difficult? Drop your thoughts below. And if this made you question what humanity is actually capable of, hit that subscribe button, because reality, it turns out, is stranger and more inspiring than any fiction we could write. The desert didn't die, it refused to, and that refusal just might save us all.